last week. Let's talk. Actually, why don't we talk to Mike Pannett? Mike Pannett's on the line. He's a former Met police officer and author, and he's going to give us some information about the way the police deal with domestic violence and domestic incidents such as this one. The front page headline in the Mirror today: police probe Nigella an inverted commas choke attack, because nobody really knows whether it was a choke attack or not, despite what the pictures appear to show. Let's talk to Mike Pannett about this. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning, Vanessa.
So this is, I mean, such a difficult one, because obviously nobody really knows what went on. All we have to see are the pictures and onlookers' reports about how distressing it all was.
Yeah.
And then we have a headline here: police probe Nigella choke attack, with the word choke attack in inverted commas. Where are the police in domestic incidents of this kind? What are they supposed to do?
Well, I think, look, it's very important for you and all your listeners to be absolutely aware that the police have taken huge steps forward when it comes to dealing with any type of domestic violence, whether that be physical, whether it be mental, or in fact emotional abuse, which is very often how domestic violence sort of starts its life. And the police, absolutely, any case of domestic violence, and this is so important, you know, the police are under such scrutiny at the moment to get things right, and I actually believe they're doing as best they can with the resources they've got. You know, they've got to take, in all cases, they look to take positive action, whether that's an arrest, whether it's getting some help for the victim. And I think more and more now it's important that we do have this sort of joined-up thinking with a multi-agency approach. So the CPS have got a huge part to play. You know, the police are doing their bit. They're down every day dealing with hundreds of domestic-related calls. And their job is to get the evidence, to, you know, make sure the victim's going to get the best possible care, and that, of course, means help from social services. But the reality is, you know, the police are one part of this cog. The follow-up to all domestic violence is so crucial, and good prosecution by the CPS, and then the follow-up care of social services. But they're under exceptional pressure, social services, with staff as well. So it really needs to be really looked at moving forward, how best we can get on top of this, what I believe is a sort of tip of the iceberg.
But if the victim doesn't come forward, if the victim doesn't go to the police and press charges, can the police move ahead anyway? They don't need the victim to press charges or a member of the public to make a complaint. They can just go ahead, can they?
Well, they can, because, you know, I have on a number of occasions when I felt things have got so out of hand, you know, you're probably well aware that people get absolutely terrified to feel they're in this, you know, people who are suffering domestic abuse get into this absolute spiral, and they can't see this over the, you know, the woods out the other side. It's just all encompassing, and they feel as if they've got no help, but they do have help. It takes a huge, you know, it's a huge amount of bravery in some cases for people, you know, of all backgrounds. You know, this domestic violence has no class barriers, Vanessa.
No, I know.
You know, what happens sometimes in public, and I think you've been touching on that this morning.
Yes.
It really sends a shiver down my spine. If some things that will take place in public, it makes you ask, well, what would actually happen behind closed doors? And
absolutely. Let me ask you something else. I mean, one of the reasons we're talking about this morning, first of all, because it's shocking. Secondly, appears to be shocking. Secondly, it's on the front page of every paper. Thirdly, it's in London. And fourthly, one of the other reasons is because it's what really is, I think, to some people, a grey area, because there's a difference, I think, between being beaten up by your other half, in which case you know you have been, he or she knows you have been, you've got some kind of, you know, scars or wounds or something to show for it, you know, there's a black eye or there's a bruise or there's a whatever it is. That's being beaten up, that's being a battered husband or wife, we know about that. But when it's not exactly that, when no one's actually been hit or bruised or, you know, pushed, when it's something else, like a threatening gesture, like what appears to be in these pictures, you know, the hand sort of clamped around the throat, but we can't see from the pictures how hard it is. We don't know if there was any actual pain or even actual proper physical contact. What we can see is what appears to be very threatening, but not actually violent. And when, for example, words are used which are abusive and demeaning and unpleasant and insulting, but no one's actually knocking your teeth out, giving you a black eye, pushing you down the stairs or out of a moving car or anything like that, it's, some people would say, a grey area, because everybody loses their temper sometimes. Everybody says things they're not proud of sometimes. You know, how do you know whether it's an abusive relationship or not?
Well, you're absolutely hitting on all the strains of domestic violence, because often, like you say, there is no physical signs, because some of these people who are abusing, the most sometimes very vulnerable people, are very dominant and are very calculating, and they know not to leave any signs or marks. It's manipulation at its worst degree, and of course it makes investigation sometimes very difficult. But I think there is boundaries. There is, people of course have a fallout now and again. Of course they may have a row, but we're talking about things which are sort of psychologically being played on. Words depends on those sort of words. If you're just having a normal row, for example, hopefully you'll hug and make up afterwards, and that's quite common. But we're talking about something much different here. We're talking about people who will go out of their way to use any kinds of forms of abuse, emotional abuse, physical, mental. It's all unacceptable, and I think there is boundaries there. But the biggest key to this is people must be aware there is a way out, and people's relationships can be very complex and complicated, and they feel there's no way out. So
an excellent point. You make an excellent point. You always do, Mike. Thank you very much indeed, Mike Pannett there.